Throughout his life devoted to the Vietnamese Revolution, his military ideology was expressed in many fields. First, about winning and keeping power. Deeply understanding the nature of the colonial regime in a semi-feudal colonial country, very early on, President Ho Chi Minh pointed out that the path to gaining power must be through an armed uprising. He also clearly determined the National Liberation Uprising must be carried out by the entire people, with the Worker-Peasant Alliance as the core force. Uniting the entire people, whenever there is an opportunity, they will rise up to overthrow the feudal colonialists. Armed uprising is when the people rise up using weapons to drive out invaders and seize power. It is a political and military struggle. From partial uprisings to general uprisings, uprisings can break out in a few places and then gradually spread throughout the country and must always aim for a general uprising to seize power. After the uprising is victorious, a revolutionary people's government must be established immediately. That is, a government of the people, by the people, and for the people. That government has the task of completely abolishing the old state apparatus, eliminating reactionaries, granting freedom and democracy to the people, and establishing an army to continue fighting and preserving the fruits of the revolution. In a colonial country with a slow-growing economy, to maintain power and fight against the invasion war of colonial imperialists, the Vietnamese Revolutionary War must be a people's resistance war, a comprehensive resistance war, a long-term resistance war, and rely mainly on one's own strength, while at the same time, one must strive to gain international sympathy and support. Second, on building armed forces. Building revolutionary armed forces must begin with building mass political forces. On that basis, building and developing military forces. From political struggle, move on to combining political struggle with armed struggle. President Ho Chi Minh advocated building a people's armed force consisting of three types of troops: main force, local force, and militia and guerrillas. Practice has proven that building a three-type armed force as the core for the entire people to fight the enemy is the most appropriate form of organization to promote the strength of the entire nation, suitable to the circumstances of Vietnam, with the military art and fighting style of the Vietnamese People's War. President Ho Chi Minh paid special attention to building the Vietnam People's Army into a revolutionary army, strong in all aspects, gradually becoming modern and standardized. Focusing on building a politically strong army is the basis and foundation for building the army, in which the core issue is to strengthen the nature of the working class, maintain and strengthen the party's leadership over the army, and ensure the army is absolutely loyal to the party and to the revolutionary ideals. Pay attention to building a spirit of democracy, discipline, and solidarity for the army. Build an army that is truly of the people, by the people, and for the people. Taking human development as the main thing, he always reminded cadres and soldiers to strive to have comprehensive qualities and capabilities. Emphasizing the role of human beings combined with valuing and improving the level of weapons and equipment, requiring all levels and sectors to care for, nurture, and ensure the material and spiritual life of soldiers. President Ho Chi Minh paid special attention to building a contingent of cadres, considering it the key step in improving the Army's fighting strength, emphasizing the sense of responsibility and attitude of cadres towards soldiers, the people, and the enemy. Third, on building Vietnam's revolutionary military science and military art. President Ho Chi Minh pointed out that the Army must creatively implement the military art of the Vietnamese People's War. In combat, the will to fight is the top condition, but knowing how to fight and win is the important factor in achieving victory. He pointed out how to defeat the enemy by strategy, tactics, position, and timing, using few to defeat many, using high quality to defeat large numbers, and when necessary, concentrating on the advantage of striking decisive blows. Flexibly apply the art of combat, avoid strong points, attack weak points, stir up the east, attack the west. Practice being at peace when the enemy is active and being strong when the enemy is tired. Always maintain an offensive posture, fight firmly, advance firmly, absolutely not be subjective and underestimate the enemy. Determine the right way to fight, promote our strength, win step by step. The more we fight, the more we win, and advance to achieve complete victory. The strength of the armed forces is closely linked to the leadership strength of the party, the invincible strength of the masses, the strength of the nation, and the strength of the times. The art of offensive strategic thinking goes hand in hand with taking the initiative in war. Only by attacking resolutely and continuously can the combined strength of people's war be brought into play. Only by attacking can one gain the initiative, and only by taking the initiative can one ensure the continuous development of the offensive position. Grasp the offensive thinking firmly, but do not be adventurous. You must know how to attack with all forces, with all weapons at hand, at all times and places. And especially, you must know how to attack the enemy's weak points, where the enemy is thin, weak, has many loopholes, where the enemy cannot develop their strengths, where we can develop our advantages. Hitting the enemy's weak and dangerous points, even a small force, can create a great effect. The offensive strategy does not exclude defense when necessary. When forced to defend, the defense must also be imbued with the offensive thinking. If you want to hold, if you want to defend, you must find a way to attack the enemy effectively. The art of creating and promoting combined strength to win. From the characteristics of Vietnam's Revolutionary War, which often uses the weak to fight the strong, the few to fight the many, President Ho Chi Minh's viewpoint is to mobilize the entire people to fight the enemy. Fight the enemy with all forces, all weapons, all ways of fighting. Combine military struggle with political struggle. Fight the enemy with both armed forces and political forces. The art of creating force, establishing position, competing for time, using strategies, and promoting the factors of time, place, and harmony. President Ho Chi Minh attached great importance to the combination of force, position, time, and strategies to win, mastered and skillfully applied the laws of position and force in war, attached great importance to the issue of opportunity, and emphasized the need to be determined to seize the opportunity to win. To promote the effectiveness of force, position, and time, one must use strategies and devise plans to fight the enemy. President Ho Chi Minh believed that force, position, time, and strategies are closely related to each other, creating conditions for each other. The movement of force creates time. Knowing how to use strategies can limit the enemy's strengths, promote our strengths, create conditions for qualitative change at the decisive moment to win victory. Creating force, establishing position, competing for time, using strategy is also associated with promoting the factors of heavenly time, geographical advantage, and human harmony. These are the factors that determine victory in war, in which human harmony is the most important, because only with human harmony can there be force. Can we create a position, create opportunities, and seize opportunities? The art of closely combining fighting and negotiating between military struggle and political and diplomatic struggle. President Ho Chi Minh selectively absorbed and inherited the valuable traditions and experiences of his ancestors and the times, and creatively applied them to the specific conditions of the Vietnamese Revolution. In each revolutionary period, President Ho Chi Minh cleverly used flexible and creative methods and forms of struggle to achieve his goals. The motto of action was to be firm in principles, flexible in tactics, with the unchanging, adapt to all changes, closely combining military, political, and diplomatic struggles. In negotiations, be ready to make concessions, but concessions with principles. President Ho Chi Minh believed that negotiation is essentially adjusting the interests of each side, knowing how to concretize one's goals, knowing how to make concessions when necessary, but always keeping the goal in mind throughout to create position, create force, and increase revolutionary strength. Practice the art of fighting and negotiating. Fighting to negotiate, negotiating to fight, both negotiating and fighting to win victory for the revolution by the path with the least bloodshed. The art of starting and ending the war, winning step by step, moving towards complete victory. President Ho Chi Minh determined that the path to national independence and socialism must go through a long process, including many stages of arduous and complicated struggles. At each stage, one must know how to set out specific and most appropriate goals, know how to lead the masses to resolutely fight for that specific goal to succeed, pave the way for the revolution, move to higher steps, create conditions to move towards final victory. In armed uprisings, one must go from partial uprisings to seize power at the grassroots level into the hands of the people, moving towards a general uprising to seize power throughout the country. In Revolutionary War, one must know how to proactively attack the enemy from small to large, from local to global, moving towards final victory. One must know how to start and end the war in the most beneficial way. When and how to start the war is extremely important, affecting the situation and final outcome of the war. At the beginning of the war, we must ensure victory in the deployment of resistance. At the end of the war, we must achieve the revolutionary goals and create a foundation for the next stage of development. We must exercise utmost restraint and find every way to delay and avoid war. But when we cannot make any more concessions, we must resolutely resist. Fourth, on building revolutionary bases and the rear of people's war. The idea of building revolutionary bases was formed in the strategic thinking of President Ho Chi Minh and applied to the historical context of Vietnam. According to President Ho Chi Minh, revolutionary bases are the support for the activities of armed forces, the foothold of resistance command centers at all levels, the place to store potential in all aspects to meet the needs of the resistance. Rear bases are the footholds as the basis for armed forces, advancing to have the ability to attack and develop forces, retreating to have the ability to stand and preserve forces, is the factor ensuring the victory of uprisings and wars. President Ho Chi Minh believed that the most solid rear base is the people's hearts. The most important issue is to build a political base among the masses, thoroughly relying on the people to gradually build, consolidate, and expand the revolutionary base and the war rear. The cause of building the base and the rear must be comprehensive, increasingly complete and solid in politics, military, economy, and culture. President Ho Chi Minh proposed the requirement of building rear bases in all areas of the country, because in armed uprisings and revolutionary wars, the forces participating in fighting the enemy are the entire people in all parts of the country, in which workers and peasants are the main force. Relying on the revolutionary forces of the masses in both rural and urban areas, building bases in both rural and urban areas, aiming to gather and promote the strength of the entire people in the country, ensuring that we can fight the enemy at any time, any place. Always be ready to fight, closely linked to building and consolidating rear bases. Actively fight against all enemy sabotage and encroachment plots. Constantly raise the spirit of revolutionary vigilance. Be ready to fight. Resolutely smash enemy sabotage and encroachment plots. Maintain the area. Protect the base. Protect the government. Protect the lives and property of the people. Protect production, transportation. Maintain order and security. Maintain the will to fight in all situations. International friends and the world's progressive peace movement are a great rear base, a source of necessary material supplies, and strong spiritual encouragement. So we must make the most of the favorable conditions of the times to build a rear base. President Ho Chi Minh was a great leader who devoted his whole life to the revolution, the people, and the fatherland of Vietnam. He creatively applied Marxism-Leninism to the specific circumstances of Vietnam, raised high the banner of national independence and socialism, harmoniously combined the fine traditions of the Vietnamese nation with the radical revolutionary ideology of the working class, closely combined patriotism with proletarian internationalism, set out the correct path, and led the Vietnamese Revolution from one victory to another.